1. Live on YouTube. Good evening, YouTube. Okay, IG is next. We're live in 3, 2, 1. Live on IG. Good evening, IG. All right, last but not least. Okay, 3, 2, 1. We are live on IG. X, sorry, top post. Good evening, X. Okay. All right, I'm going to start the music, and I'll see you on in 5 minutes.
And that's the link I can copy. Is
Yeah, let me make that the. What up, Hito? Let me make that the top post right now.
Thank you.
What up, goalie?
Spends all her time alone. When I am perfectly willing to give her everything she needs. I don't care about her past. I don't care what she's been through. I just wanna feel one night with good love, baby. That's all I wanna do. So baby, if you got that feeling, I wanna give you that midnight healing.
What up, Big Money?
Know what I'm talking about, yeah. Just turn the lights down low. Come right on over here to me. I know you don't want no commitments, baby. I just wanna set your body free. And I don't care what's going on in the night outside my door. I just wanna get your head right, baby. Give you all the love I got for sure. So baby, if you've got that feeling, you know I wanna give you that midnight healing. Oh, I just wanna make love to you all night long. Midnight healing, baby. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay. What's good, y'all? Happy Halloween week. I see all you guys out there. What up, Big Money? What up, Hito? What up, Goldie? What up, guys? What up, IG? What up, Twitch? What up, YouTube? What up, Facebook? And what up, X? What's going on, y'all? Everybody got their Halloween costumes ready? We're just going to do a quick audio check, and then we're going to get the show going. I hope everybody got their Halloween costumes ready for this week. We sound good. Okay. All right, for those of you who have been watching the show for 9+ years, you know we get a little festive on Halloween, so I had to pull my pumpkin out. Sounds good, everything's good, so let's get going. Okay. How's everyone doing out there? All right. We got a very interesting week this week. Costumes will be in effect Wednesday night for the FCW show and for Friday. I'm aiming for a show on Friday. What is this, Marc? What is this light stand doing in the shot right now? All right. Halloween costumes will be in effect this week. We will have Halloween costumes in full effect for Wednesday's show and Friday's show. I am going to work on a guest for Friday's show. I think she would be perfect, but we'll see if that works out. But we'll talk about that at the end of the show. We'll go over everything we got going on all week at the end of the show. Anyways, our guest tonight, I know nothing about this dude. Not a thing. I don't know nothing about his art. I don't know nothing about him. But we had such a great show last week with Noble that Noble hit me up in my DMs and was like, yo, I think I got a really good show for you. I said, oh, yeah? Who do you got? And he sent me Astral, and Astral sent me a DM, and now we got Astral tonight. So this is totally a blind show. So all the pressure is on Astral. Nah, I'm only joking. But I don't. I have the utmost faith in all of these guys. I don't believe anything happens for a reason. I don't believe in coincidences. And it helped me actually line up the week and shows better. And gave me some time to work out some other guests for the future. So I feel like everything worked out perfectly. So I expect a great show tonight. On that note, let's bring him up. Astral, hang on. Don't say nothing yet. Let me get you over on IG. All right. All right. Here we go. We got him. Okay, Astral. Say what up to everybody.
Hello, everyone. How's it going?
All right. All right.
Pressure's on. Hope I don't disappoint. I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun if we got you at the helm.
We'll be all right, bro. I never not believed. Just want to make sure I don't have. I think I make these changes in the show, and then I forget I make them, and then I realize I did my shit. Like I made a change in the middle of the show, and then I forget that I made it, and then I go back and I start the show again, and it's like, oh shit, I forgot I did that. Astral. So you okay, better. Astral, highly recommended. You got a chance to watch Noble's show. You came highly recommended through Noble, and now we're gonna get a chance to learn about you. So we're gonna start this show off, especially for me, which is I'm gonna learn about the true power of the hour of power tonight. But we have one general question on this show, and this is what we always start off with, which is why don't you take a couple minutes, introduce yourself to everybody, tell us a little bit about you, your life, your art, and then we'll get the show going. You know, so go ahead, man. Why don't you take it from there?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate it. So I guess I could introduce myself. My digital persona is Astral. I make the Astral postcards mostly on X. I post, but also on Instagram. And a couple other places with NFTs and all that. I really started doing this in January because I was working on a book, and I just saw people on X making this really cool art, and we would try to approach them, and it's just our personal accounts with no followers, and they wouldn't even see the replies. So we were like, how are they making this stuff? Like, is it AI? But I could do that. So that's what got me started working with the AI tools. And I quickly realized that there's a lot more to it than just like putting some words in and then the image you want comes out. And even there's more to it than copying other people's work. I even tried that at first, which is kind of it's a big no-no in the space, just to rip someone directly. But for experimenting purposes, even then, it wouldn't give you what you wanted and, in the way you wanted it to. So that challenge kind of sparked an addiction to using those tools and just kind of refining how to use them. And then, I'm also exploring a lot of different creative projects. So like writing is one of them. In my day job, I'm actually more of a filmmaker. So I've made documentaries in the past. That's how I got started, and work a lot as a videographer and things like that. So I'm not super in touch with the art space, and I've just been getting more into it through people like Noble. They've encouraged me to, kind of treat what I'm making as art. And like, I really have been doing that the last couple months. And the storytelling around it is still a lot of fun for me, but putting a lot more effort into the creations and then treating them with a little more respect rather than something you just post online. So, I mean, I could go further back, but hopefully that gives a good overview.
We're gonna go further back, but I happen to be a filmmaker myself, so
Cool.
Let's get the party started. All right, so let's take it all the way back, right? Let's take it back to when you were a little Astral, and what I want to know is, tell me about you as a kid, and take it as far back as you possibly remember. You got art in your family? You got any type of art? Anyone you looked up to? And if there was art, how did it start? It's I could actually take it back to the very first time I started messing around with making films. But this is less about me, more about you. So why don't you take us back in time and tell us about little Astral? I mean, I want to know. I want to know the art influence, if there was one. Because this could have been a later thing, but I'm curious. So go ahead, man.
Yeah, my dad's actually a very talented cartoonist, and he went to school for that, so he draws cartoons. He was obsessed with comic books as a kid, and the comic strips. So we learned how to do stuff like what's the guy who did the Fritz the Cat? It was like a big influence for him, and he was always drawing stuff. And then when I had a project in school, he would draw it for me, and just be this cool presentation. But I think because of that, I was like very intrigued by it, but never developed the skills myself because he was always just doing it. And he gave that up to just basically have a corporate career, and just figured he'd never be able to support a family drawing and all that. So that for him was a way to probably get back in touch with his inner child. For me, it was kind of like he got to be the artist and I was just kind of observing it. So I held it in this really high regard, but never got to develop that way. And then, yeah, as a kid, I was always reading. I just like, we had a thing called accelerated reader in the public schools, and I was always at the top. I got the pizza party. I got to hang out with the teacher. I was that kid. Because I got the most points because I was just reading everything. I was drawn to stuff like Roald Dahl, had a lot of books for kids that actually got into stuff like mysticism in a weird way, which you wouldn't expect. A lot of science fiction for kids, or like young adults, I guess I should say, because I would usually read a little higher than the grade level. And those really fascinated me. And then, yeah, then I went through high school and kind of you stopped doing all that and lost connection with that. And then in college, I didn't really know what to do and just did business. And then it's kind of a roundabout way. I always considered writing as one of my more strong suits. Like it was an English major is what I ended up doing because I had a crush on a girl at the time who was a writer, and I thought that would impress her, and it did not. Or I don't even know. I was able to tell her that she just wasn't interested, but it caught me on that path. And then weirdly, within English department, that was where the filmmaking program was at the university I was at. So I got to make stuff there. And that was another thing where my dad kind of treated films as if they were church, because we were Catholic a little bit growing up, but then we stopped, and my dad would just like show me a clip from like East of Eden or something, or like James Dean movies, or Humphrey Bogart and stuff like that. So that was his version of taking me to church. So that's where like my love of film probably came from. So yeah, it was cool to be able to get back in to study that in college. And then while I was there, I made documentary just the most accessible thing, because you don't need actors, you don't need a crew, you just go out there with your camera and like, it was in between when smartphones had nice cameras and were ubiquitous. So like not everyone was just filming stuff constantly. So there was still some value to just showing up with a camera, as opposed to like, everyone's recording themselves constantly these days. But there was still something about that was secluded, I guess, to filmmaking. And that was probably the last moment that was true. But the stuff I made was fun in that way. And I cut the one I made into like a 10-minute short about this kind of wacky character down in Miami who's trying to save the environment down there. And it ended up doing well at film festivals, and I sold it to PBS, so that kind of launched me in that direction. So hopefully that answers. I mean, I could go connect it all the way to now, but basically I just worked film jobs from then on. I tried to get funding for feature-length documentaries. And in that time, I was also going on this sort of spiritual journey, if you will. I had a lot of physical pain in my body from playing football growing up. It's like I was kind of heavily, not forced, but just like, it wasn't a question whether I'd be playing football from the age of like 5. I was doing tackle football, and then I had concussions and all this stuff, and just built up all this neck pain in my body that doctors weren't able to treat. A lot of other issues that led me down a spiritual path. So that was going on, the same period after I made the documentaries in my 20s, and I got really heavily into meditation and plant medicines and things like that, which also helped me get back in touch with that sort of like little kid that just wanted to draw like his dad or something like that, or loved reading these fantastical stories. So, now I'm towards like pretty deep into that journey, and film is a little less interesting to me. Like the documentaries are less interesting, because even then it was just something that was an entry point into storytelling, if that makes sense, as opposed to like, no one's going to hand you a studio to direct hundreds of people off the bat. So I burnt out doing the documentary stuff. And this is kind of my way of creating. It's a little more honest to what I want to be doing.
Okay. I should have had a pad, but I don't think I need one. I got specific points that I want to touch on. What was your father's? Yeah, I mean, wish we had him here. I would just be curious, but it sounded like Frizz the Cat was one of them. But did he favor different comics, or you know, it's one of my all-time. I mean, I feel like, I don't know why, but I feel like, are you familiar with Calvin and Hobbes?
Oh yeah, yeah. I love Calvin and Hobbes. That was maybe he's too old for that. That might be like not his generation.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah. So I was gonna say, I was curious what he was a fan of, but I said, let me tell you, if I could live one guy's life, I'd live that. It's Watterson, Bill Watterson. Yeah, yeah, man, that guy drew, man. So every Sunday I would look forward to that comic, man. I loved his books. You know, his books were obviously a collection of his comics, but yeah. What about the football thing? That I'm kind of curious about. What position did you play, and what actually happened medical wise? And I'm curious. Was it because of the constant compression on the head from tackling? Like, how'd that happen? How'd that whole thing work out?
Yeah, it was you know, when I was doing flag football, it was a whole lot of fun because you're just running around. I think I was quarterback at that point. I was pretty young though. I was like 5. And then by the time you're 6 or 7, they put you in pads. I mean, they used to. I don't think it's legal to do that anymore for reasons that'll become obvious as I tell this story. But you know, you put the pads on, you put the helmet on, and it's just like, I was like a little kid wearing a suit of armor. I don't know if anyone had to do that as a kid, they know what I'm talking about. And it never felt like it fit right. I always felt it was squeezing my head. But the injuries came about just like I can remember the moments when I was in a game. And I would play like defensive end and fullback mostly when it was tackle because, you know, I was good at blocking. I was good at, you know, just kind of getting on people. And I was I'm like kind of short now compared to average height, but at the time I was like maybe a little bigger. Yeah, I can remember like there was this kid running with the football and I was on this direct line to intercept him. And I can remember just being like, oh, don't do it. And then I just remembered leading with my head and really just wiping the kid out. And of course, everyone comes up to you afterwards and is like, nice hit. You know, they reward it. But I can remember even then there was like, not a good move for me, not a good move for that kid. And there were like multiple instances of that. That went on, you know, like, and then in high school, I only played for a year, but they put the freshmen as like the practice people. And there was this guy, you know, like the starters would come out and just push into you a little bit. And there was this guy that was so huge. He ended up playing at Georgia. I want to say University of Georgia. He was just huge lineman, and he would just come up and like block into me. And one time his head connected with mine, completely wiped me out and gave me another concussion. And that was when I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. But yeah, I mean, it's just in my early 20s, there's probably a lot of repressed emotions as well. And it just like, there's something about your nervous system where your emotions, you know, kind of go through your body. And then this is my belief, at least, go through your body and then get processed by your brain. And when there's something interrupting that, whether that's emotional suppression or physical, there's like the nerves themselves don't connect, then it just starts to solidify, and like a clogged sewer pipe or something like that. It just backs up. And that was what I had going on really throughout my body, because when I finally got to see a chiropractor about it, like my head was like, one arm was like a couple inches longer than the other. My head would have sat like this if I were like holding it right. So I just compressed my entire right side of my body down. This side lengthened a little bit. So like my right hand was an inch shorter when you extended it than my left hand. So that hopefully paints a picture. Like that was, you know, just not fun. And that results in being very, you know, I was always an overachiever, smart kid, but I just like couldn't focus on very simple things, you know, from the pain. And also just like, I think my brain wasn't getting enough blood and things like that. So yeah, that was frustrating.
You know, what I always see those videos with the chiropractors where they the one part where they kind of like, I don't know, it's like a rig and they wrap it around your neck and and it the whole entire they pull out the whole entire neck and you hear the whole thing, the crack, and then but it's more of like the response from the people who have it done afterwards. Like for most part, they go through the general practice of if you're familiar with basketball, Stephon Marbury, I had to shoot a documentary for his brother, so we went down to Atlanta, and this was like my first time ever having an experience with a chiropractor, because I guess maybe I was never a big believer in it. There's some people who like swear by chiropractors. The alignment, they get the alignment back in place. I go to the bathroom so much better. I mean, I've heard so much stuff, but I remember this kid treated us all to a free, I remember he treated us all to a free, I don't know what you would call it, a one-time chiropractoring, a visit, or whatever.
Exactly.
His chiropractor was part of the documentary, because his chiropractor was very into, he saw a lot of basketball players. He always measured his metabolism rate. He was very scientific about the body. He would analyze the body, and he was a little bit older when he was going for NFL pro, but he wanted to get the impression across that, his body, his metabolism, everything's running like, literally an 18-year-old. And he treated us all to this one session. That's the word I'm looking for. And so I remember laying, and I remember him, like bend this way, bend. And I remember him cracking everything, but I never had the neck done. So I'm always kind of very weary about someone, turning my neck and cracking my neck. But afterwards, I seen so many of these videos where, they'd yank the neck. And I remember going through the whole process. But I don't remember getting off that table and being like, oh, my God, I feel so different. But I have seen the neck thing looks very – I've always felt like, because I've played football, my favorite I used to play running back, but they moved me to fullback because I was too slow, but I was big. I was heavy. I was almost 225, 250, 5'8", so I could lay a hit. And then they moved me to defensive end, because defensive end was like, that was to me that was my position. And that's where I kind of stayed. But I remember playing defensive end. And I don't think the most damage, because I didn't play much pads. I was just play in a lot of street football, a lot of flag football, and just pickup games, things of that nature. But I remember we used to play on the end. And I remember always throwing my shoulder and blowing off the line and going after the quarterback. It was, but I always remembered how much compression from the force of the hit, because you lead with your shoulder, you lead with your head, you plant your feet, you spring, and I would always, I always understood how the body works. So I'd always chip the corner, the
tackle.
Thank you, the tackle. But I always knew where to hit the tackle to make them. It never mattered what size. But what I always believed ended up, because I have lower back pain, because I do have neck pain, because of the constant pounding. And I believe it adds up. I got a wicked pain in my lower back now, and I'm always trying to constantly crack my back. But that compression and that hit adds up. Obviously, the human body's not supposed to be doing that time and time again. But I was always curious about the interesting, because hanging, they say now is like insane. Like if you could hang for 30 seconds, just do a dead hang in the gym. You do that for 30 seconds, you do that straight for 30 days. Not only do you walk taller, the body goes through a transformation where it releases so much pain. It's just like a world of a difference. So hanging is something that I've been working on. And first, you got to work up your stamina to the point where you could get 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. But then just doing that once a day works wonders for the compression of the body. So I'm not sure if you've tried any of that, but I am curious about what you have tried to correct it. And not only that, but you also mentioned something about plant-based um,
Medicine.
yeah, and that I am curious about because that I am a huge believer in that. So I think the entire world needs to understand that there is something out there for everything, right? There's something
Mhm.
out there. The planet has provided something for every single symptom. I also do believe that we're a human race that has been focused on eating the wrong things that eventually over time add to the problems as well. And then we become so set in our ways that it's almost impossible to change these habits. But if you do change the habits, you will see a world of a difference. And that's something for me, you could say a bit of a spiritual journey that I went through in my life where I could never really understand how I was putting on so much weight. I would work out, work out, work out. I could never get my body past 210. But then just by a simple change in my diet, my entire body came down to like 158, 160, where I almost lost 100 pounds. And football was also the reason why I blew out both my knees. I blew out my left knee with my patella tendon. I blew out my right knee with my MCL, ACL, cartilage damage, meniscus, everything you could imagine. I destroyed my right knee. Got obviously put back together, but a lot of that was because of I was heavy. I was a heavy kid. I was a physical kid. And everything I did was, as a caddy, I used to carry around 100 pounds. But why don't you talk to me about the plant based medicine and how'd you go about, I don't think you could ever correct it once you damage it, but there are things that I think you can do to, force some sort of correction in there. So I'm just curious how you corrected that pain.
Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing. That's for sure. I just knew I was in a lot of pain and that it wasn't healthy. However, I was living, and there had to be some sort of solution, was what I believed. So, a big part of it was just being unable to feel my emotions and process them because, this was, you tell someone that's like, yeah, and no man can do that, whatever, they send you to therapy. And I went to therapy and there was some like benefits to that. And it did, help me sort of understand myself a little better. But then I got very frustrated quickly because it didn't really change the situation. And I remember, I was living in, this is still the college town that I was in, and I was just connected to this community of people that happened to know an ayahuasca shaman was passing through. So I don't even know if this is becoming popular for NFL players, but it is. People like Aaron Rodgers have popularized ayahuasca for brain health, really, and helping prevent CTE, which they didn't even have a name for at the time I was dealing with all this. And I do genuinely believe I had beginning symptoms of CTE. Like they don't fully understand what it is yet, or maybe it was something different but related. But I would get agitated easily. I would get, I would have just rage sometimes that came from nowhere. Um, and maybe some of that is from trauma or whatever, like actual emotional roots. But I think a lot of that had to do with these brain injuries that I sustained. And continue to sustain from being in that bad shape. So anyway, this shaman came through, and I was like, you know what, let's try it. I was feeling called towards it as well, and that was it was a pretty incredible experience. It was a couple nights. They just rented out this big, basically an Airbnb property in the middle of nowhere in Florida, and they had their whole team, and they were playing the music, and you go up there and they give you this chalice. And you're like, oh, what am I about to drink? What am I about to do? You just drink this fucking, it tastes like vomit. It tastes terrible. It's hard to get down, but then you get it down and then you go and you lay down and you just wait for something to happen. And I remember the first night it was just waiting and waiting. And Like it kind of felt like, I don't know if you ever smoke too much weed and you get paranoid. You're just in these paranoid loops.
Yeah.
And it felt like that. But what was interesting is I noticed once I would notice that the loop was happening. And then once I noticed it, that loop would stop. And then I realized those loops were happening in my head at all times. And there was some sort of intelligence showing me that. And that was why it felt that way. And as I learned more, it became calmer and calmer in there. And, got to work through it that first night. And the whole time I'm having diarrhea. It's just no fun. They take you to the bathroom constantly. And it's a full body purge, right? And then the second night, you go home and shower or whatever, and you come back and then you do the same thing. You drink it, you lay on your yoga mat. And that time I had a really intense psychedelic trip where the first time I drank it, I came into it much calmer and trusting. And I drank it, and then probably the worst vomiting period I've had, where it just felt like I couldn't stop. It was almost like I was turning my stomach inside out. But then once you got that out, I just laid back and just had this incredible psychedelic vision where I felt like, it wasn't really like I was learning so much as I did in psychedelic journeys after that. It was more about a feeling of being like purging and just feeling like I was just letting go of quite a bit. The visual was like hurtling down a tunnel. And then also feeling like there was a snake working its way through me that was the tunnel. And it was probably a visual for my intestines being cleaned out and stuff like that. And I remember it got to my head, these intelligence, whatever it is, maybe it's my brain, it just shuts off a part of my brain, it's a different part of my brain talking to me. But I just felt something was like, there's a big problem up here and you're not ready. If we do deal with it right now, you're going to freak out. So we're just going to leave it. I'm like, unless you want us to. And then I kind of went towards it a little bit and I remember freaking out. I didn't know all that stuff was going on with my neck at the time. I didn't know, I described the way it was imbalanced and just out of position. I didn't know all that. And it was kind of hinting at that for me. And then, the trip ended and you're in this beautiful glow, afterglow for a while. And I went straight from that into, I was just, I was kind of at a weird rock bottom, not rock bottom, but like desperate point in my life. So I went directly from that to a month later, I did a 10-day silent meditation retreat, because that's a similar thing where it's like, plant medicines like ayahuasca and then also Vipassana meditations are sold, I guess is the word for it. Sold as like a cure-all for anything. Like you can ease all suffering. You can eliminate all suffering through Buddhist meditation is what they tell you. And I was like, okay, well, we'll give it a shot. Ayahuasca can cure any sort of disorder, in its own way. It's because it's intelligent. So I went straight from that into that. And again, I still don't know that I've got this imbalance. And I wasn't really a meditator. So I'm sitting there for 10 hours a day with a crooked spine on my head, just on wrong, trying to sit still, sit up like this, completely still with a blank mind. And I'm sure it's very hard to do without a messed up spine, but it's impossible to do that when you're in all this pain. Just like I just spent every break stretching and everything. I was like, this isn't normal. But even then, it was a pretty incredible experience where you do learn how to manually sort of take yourself on the journey is the wrong word, but like maybe perform the sort of surgery that a plant medicine shows you how to do. And this might have been in part because I just had that memory, very fresh memory of the ayahuasca journey, but I felt like I was learning how to do that manually, dive deep into yourself, peel off layers, have these sort of like crazy releases and things like that, just purely by stilling yourself and observing and just letting things happen. So those are the first two big ones. I've done a lot of other weird stuff since then, but I'll pause in case you got anything for me.
No, I was just gonna ask. The meditation thing I understand, but I've never taken it to like the advanced. I just 20 minutes. I understand it, and I understand the 20 minutes in the day, 20 minutes at night. First thing when you wake up, last thing you do when you go to sleep. I've heard a lot of success stems from that 40 minutes. Not only that, but if you talk to, it's interesting because I've researched a lot of high-end successful people, and I've often found that you see a pattern in them, and a lot of them will talk about how they meditate in the morning, meditate at night. It's the first thing they do. It's the last thing they do when they go to sleep. It's, you know, to help you set your day, clear your mind, and you attack your day differently. And it's not, you know, and a lot of them will also say that the success really started happening when they implemented meditation in their life. And it's just, I heard it too many times from too many different success stories to ignore it. It's one thing when one person says one thing, but then when you hear this, you know, like 7 or 8 different people say the same thing over and over and over again, you got to start wondering, like, you know, it's you know, there's something going on, like it's a trend, like that you start to see a trend within behaviors. And then that kind of leads you to like, hey, you know what? Let me see if there's something to this. Did you find an answer there, or you know what I wanted to ask is have you found the answer yet, or is it still a journey that's taking place? It's, you know, that's probably what I'm curious about.
Yeah, no. So yeah, I did in that. I get the answers in parts. So I get like a little bit of the answer revealed to me, and maybe I'm probably still learning what this, you know, how to make sense of all this. But I will say I do second what people say. It's good to start the day and end the day with that, because it's just, you realize you're just kind of like taking a shower almost for your mind or something like that. When you don't do it, you feel dirty. And then until you start doing it, you don't realize how dirty you are. It's like, oh, I've been wearing smelly laundry all day, and you know. But the one I went to, so it was 10 hours a day, off and on. So you do like an hour and then like hour break from 5 a.m. till I want to say 8 p.m. or something like that. So you really like you really get in there, and it's completely silent. The one I went to was like half in Burmese. They had all these Burmese people there, and like people were just like, I don't want to say losing, they weren't losing their minds, but they're clearly working through something where they were having full conversations with themselves. And you feel kind of crazy because you're like, you haven't talked to anyone, you haven't received any stimulation in like 4 days, 5 days, 6 days. And you know what I learned through that is a lot of the solidifications within me that I thought were physical, and you know, maybe had emotions attached to them, they had a whole story attached to them, they had a whole identity attached to them. And oftentimes I didn't need someone, you know, I hadn't really even seen a chiropractor yet, and I started to feel relief from just letting go of the story I was telling myself about why I need to feel this way, if that makes sense. So you can get in there, and once you realize that's what you're doing to cope with it constantly, then underneath that you get to experience the pain. And you know, that's challenging because at least for me, it was like the nerves filled up to the pain threshold I could tolerate and then just shut off. So as I'm getting back in, I'm re-experiencing that pain threshold again. So that was pretty challenging, but at the same time, it's like a good pain where you're just like, oh, finally, like you can finally feel this again and get it out. So that was the big lesson from that, is that you can kind of just like you relax your body, you go in and you can kind of do the surgery yourself from a mental level. And it, you know, this sounds a little woo-woo maybe, but like you realize everything has this mental level, you know, like there's no separation between your mind and your body, there's no in your spirit, you know, it's all kind of one thing. And because of that, you can treat it from all these different angles if you just know how to kind of get in there. And yeah, maybe that sounds a little far-fetched, but when you experience it, it makes a lot more sense, because your mind is telling your body what to do constantly. And then, you know, you just forget that you left that message on like send permanently. You know, you just like held down the key and forgot, but then you can take your weight off the key and get it to stop sending that message of, you know, I'm a dumb person for having done this. You know, maybe I had a story about, you know, I shouldn't have hit that kid and then my head wouldn't hurt right now. And that was like, there was a strand of pain like that. And of course it's like peeling off very thin layers constantly, and eventually you get to the center. So that became the guiding, I guess, guiding principle or guiding practice to everything I've done. I got to do the other most powerful plant medicine I had the privilege of working with. It's called Iboga. I don't know if you might have heard of that.
No.
It's from Africa. It's a little different where you, that one's bigger for addiction. You know, I don't have, luckily don't have problems with addiction, but it's really helpful for a lot of other things, and also very good for your brain. And it's on that same level of ayahuasca where it's very, very intense, and you shouldn't really, don't go do it. It's not illegal it's not legal in the States either. You have to go out of the country, or I think join a weird church or something like I did for the ayahuasca thing. I don't know what loophole that was, but yeah, it's for that one, that was only a couple years ago. I try to pace them out because it really destabilizes your life for a little bit. But for that one, it's a stimulant, and you take it at night, and you fast, and you trip for like from 1 to 3 days, and you get a whole. That was definitely like more of a learning experience. You get a whole life review where you review in like the span of 10 minutes, probably all 30 years of your life previously, or however old you are. And it just goes through, it's cleansing your synapses is what I think is really happening. It's like reprogramming your stuck patterns, stuck neural networks in your brain. But the way you experience that is like remembering moments where you learned a lesson that you no longer want to hold. So like if you had a parent that was mean to you, as a kid, you start to think that being mean is what love is, because how else do you make sense of it, right? Because your parents still love you. There's still that love behind it, but they got something weird inside them. Like someone was mean to them, someone hurt them, and then that's just how they act a lot of the time towards you. So then you think, on a genuine level, you think that's what loving someone is. That's what being kind to someone is, like bullying them. You can see that even in your behaviors and behaviors of other people. And what this medicine did is went through a lot of those and was like, this is what you believed. Do you still want to believe that? And I'd be like, no, that sucks. And then it would just gone the next thing, and it was just like flipping through a post-it note of that. This went on for days. There's a time period when you're under the medicine where it feels like you're experiencing metaphysical truth, if that makes sense. So like just the pure essence of truth, and anything you bring to your mind will be met with that, and you'll get an answer to everything. So a lot of the time people will write down questions they want to ask while they're in that state. I don't think that was included in my ceremony, but those still like questions kept popping up, and it would answer them. And I think the lesson I got with my brain injury on that one was, it was this whole sort of show it gave me, where it was like, you are this way because you're telling the story to yourself that you are this way, and if you stop telling that story, you won't be this way. And it's like it felt like I was a dog, and I'd been taken to the vet by my like my owners or whatever, and they're they love me, obviously they want the best for me, but I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm freaking out, I'm in pain, and they're just like laughing almost. They're like, oh, it'll be okay, buddy. And that's what it feels like working with this, and intelligence, for lack of a better word, or whatever it is that's going on when you take these medicines, whether that's tapping into your full intelligence, your body, the earth, whatever, God. It just feels like you're a dog, and you're at the vet, and they're like, we're gonna take this splinter out of you, so just let us do that for a second, and then you'll feel better. And from then on, it's felt a lot better. Like it doesn't bother me as much. I don't experience the symptoms nearly as much. I still have my daily sort of Vipassana style meditation, and just really philosophy on, I go through and I still find stuck energy. I still find rocks that I have to dig up, for lack of a better word. But the severity and like just the gravity of the story I was telling myself about what was going on, and then also a lot of the brain fog and symptoms, all of that has really lifted since I got to do that.
I believe human beings, we go through experiences as we live life, as we learn, especially when we're young. It's interesting what you said about the parents. I think that it's the way you were raised, it's the way they were raised, and then it becomes a cycle, right? So then if you have someone who, let's just say, you'll never do good at that. You'll never do good at that. You'll never do good at that. And it's just the way they speak and the way they talk. And then these things become reoccurring themes inside your brain, especially when you're very young. Lots of different situations happen to you when you're very young. Human beings repress these things, but not only do we repress these things, they begin to become part of our personality. So then everything that you do, it comes to a certain point where you find yourself, and you're not finishing it, or you're not winning, or this is not something that I can do, and it's not necessarily you having those thoughts. It's these thoughts that have been programmed into you, until you realize that you think the way that you decide you think. The way you decide to program the way you speak, and even a lot of times we don't realize it, but the way we talk to ourselves, the words that we use when we talk to ourselves. You ever do something, you're like, Marc, man, you are so fucking stupid. And it's just things like that where, right? And it's not necessarily, we don't really think that, but it's the words that you use end up programming yourself. I've also firmly believed that a lot of pain that we experience is the suppression of events that we just don't want to face. Things that happen, things that have happened, rather than confront the situation, we'll let it slide or let it happen and then we'll bury it. And a lot of times people will start wearing, I've often felt, for me, in my opinion, we start wearing the pain back here, especially in our shoulder blades. A lot of tension, a lot of anxiety. And I've always said that when I start to feel like the pain shoot through my neck and shoot through my shoulder blades, I always said it, I'm experiencing anxiety at that point in time. And a trigger, I think, that happens with that anxiety is something that we don't want to deal with, or we don't want to do, or maybe someone lying and we know it, but we don't want to confront that situation right at the time that it's happening. So we bury it because, rather than steer the boat into, the iceberg, we want to keep the boat afloat because we like the boat, rather than, not maybe read the signs that are right in front of us. So, you make adjustments, but really ultimately what happens is that these adjustments take a toll on your body, take a toll on, you have to wear the weight of the world, right? Mm-hmm. You're wearing the weight of the world. I often said this, that if you look at how someone walks, I've always said that you have to walk, you have to sit. It's right. The teachers always say, sit with your back straight. But I feel like it's the compression of the world and people and weight that we carry that slowly. And if you ever watch, there's guys that walk around people walk around very slumped over. And so when I see that, I always say to myself, man, it looks like fucking the world took its toll on that person. But so we carry a lot rather than let it go. And I think that's a human thing. It's a human trait. We're not taught to deal with it, face it. A lot of times as human beings, we're taught to bury it. Just bury it. You have to face the conflict. You have to face the problem. And a lot of times in life, especially when we're younger, you sweep things under the rug. We're not going to talk about that here. And then, people don't want to talk about their mistakes. And then these things build up and build up and build up, and they could result in pains. That's just, I think that's experience from my, life. I don't know if what I'm saying is lining up with, everything that you're talking about. But
100%.
So, I found that I've smoked my fair share of weed, and a lot of times I've put myself into such a deep meditative state that I feel like that's when everything comes out. You just find yourself crying, and you don't even know what you're crying about, but it ends up being some shit that you remember. That happened 20 years ago, and you're like, damn, that shit's still bothering me. And then you start to connect the pieces, and then you start to try and figure out the whys, the whats, the how comes, and why do I always put myself in this reoccurring situation? And then you start to kind of trace that back to the reason why, and then you're like, holy shit, like A, B, C, and D. And like, I'm treating myself like this because this is what I was, not by anybody's fault. It's you walking around that I want to be a singer, and it's don't be silly. That's it's unaccomplishable. And you know how many people in those say I want to be a baseball player. Now you know how many people are pro baseball players, and when the truth of the matter is if you train your brain and you could be anything that you tell yourself you want to be. I mean, the biggest truth is belief in yourself. And if you have that belief in yourself and the way you talk to yourself, but if you're not trained like that from the very beginning, that's something that you got to kind of figure out halfway through life. If you figure it out at all, if you come across the right information. Now there's so much information with the internet, social media, that I do believe that everyone is open to the information, but it is a question of whether or not someone is ready to take that journey. I do believe a lot of people just go through life, this is it. When there's so much more out there, when it really all comes down to how you talk to yourself and how you train your brain. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about college and how you stumbled into filmmaking. That that was intriguing in itself because you really weren't surrounded behind filmmaking. But I'm going to say you did mention reading, you did mention writing, so you got some type of storytelling in you. You're very good at telling a story because I'm sitting here, you're on the show, and it's intriguing listening to everything that you're saying, so you know how to tell a story, but you have some type of storytelling in you. So, I heard a little bit about, but filmmaking was never in your blood, but then it ended up becoming filmmaking. And then I'm going to say something to the effect of, do you believe that with the camera, the invention of the camera phone and how good they come, it almost sounds like now everybody can make a movie, as social media too, right? But not everybody can make a good movie. And now people are making movies about their lives, especially social media is a movie about your life and how you tell your story, which I never looked at it that way until I started having this conversation with you. I always looked at it as a form of bragging, which is, I used to be great on Snap. I love Snapchat. I love Snapchat, right? It was like one of my favorite social media. Snapchat is the reason how this show got born 9 years ago, because I would just be on Snapchat making these movies about my day. And I incorporated this thought of, like, if I can make a really good movie about my day, I can make a movie about anything. And not only that, but I'm promoting me. Which is now what social media is about. If you're an artist, if you're an athlete, if you're a filmmaker, I've got to promote me. I got to promote me. You're the star of your show. And so telling a story was super important. And then as I was telling these stories, I was telling stories about so I had to take care of my grandparents for 3 years. They were 96 and 101. 101. And 91, 90, they were 5 years old. So 96 and 101. And, here they are. Most people would be like, fuck am I doing here? Like, I got to fucking do this every day. This is the worst. But I tried to take a positive perspective on it. And I was just like, well, I got Snapchat. Mm-hmm. I got these two old people that fight at dinner about everything every single day. But yet at the end of the day, it's like, oh, I love you. Oh, I love you. Oh, I love you. I love you. And I'm like, y'all fight every single day. You're screaming at him at everything he's doing wrong with his life. Like, you go at it, but yet we love each other, right? And maybe that's their way of loving each other, right? But I found such comedy in taking care of them at night. I have to make sure one gets up the stairs in one piece because, if he made one wrong move, he'd come tumbling down. My grandmother was a kid. But, like, now I start following them, and I'm making a movie about it. Next thing I know, I'm going, oh, man, this is fucking hysterical. This is some of the funniest shit I've ever, right? And so Yeah, so sharing some thoughts that are coming off the top of my head too,
Mhm.
but the filmmaking thing is interesting because it sounds like you were during a time before you started it during a time. I'm gonna go ahead and say mini DV or
Well, the
what?
first one we shot on mini DV, and then the further one
Go
was
ahead, take it from here.
yeah, the Canon T5i.
Yeah, okay. All right. I
That's
know.
very fun.
I got your age too. So go ahead, go ahead.
So right on that threshold, this is what 2016 maybe. I was 2015. Um, yeah, no.
Man, I'm just gonna say one thing. Mini DV changed the game. Everybody was stuck on film and film 16, 35, and then this mini DV popped up, and the Canon was mini DV. What was the other one? There was a really good Sony. And it had the Canon, the white XL1, I think, if I remember correctly. It's a while ago. But go ahead. Yeah, you could snap and change the lenses. And that's when I really learned it's about the fucking lens. It was never about how you captured it, but it was about the lens. I was like, damn, this mini DV it made everything, it made it affordable. And it made it, you could, if you knew how to work your equipment, you knew how to like really capture a good fucking image. And I'm going to say the next thing was the Sony, the open chip with the lenses where you take your camera and use regular photography lenses. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'll just go ahead.
No, yeah, that's brings me back to being in the editing lab and
Shit, yeah.
scrolling through those tapes as they transcribed onto the computer and everything. How I got into filmmaking. Well, I mentioned like my dad treated filmmakers and film as church writers as this sort of like he had this what would today I think today he actually has a YouTube shorts playlist, but he would take snippets from all these different DVDs and just play one scene from a movie that he just really liked for some reason. And he would play an interview with Jack Kerouac. He would play like a Morrissey music video, just like all the guys that he was just, culture artists, things like that he was obsessed with. R. Crumb, he would, show clips from his documentary. So artists, all these different artists. Film was probably the biggest one that stuck out to me, and I became, just interested in it. It also was this like weird, in the same way that art was this inaccessible thing that my dad did, but I didn't know how to do. And we talked earlier about conditioning. Like that was the thing where it was like, oh, you can't do that or you'll never make money. So like it was just never an option in my head until after I kind of reprogrammed things throughout my 20s. Obviously, I'm creating stuff now, but yeah, film. So like it was this weird, like it drew me into it, where I had this crush on a girl. I was switched my major to English. There was a film studies class within that, and the teacher was just really, really good, just really smart dude. I don't know what he was doing at the University of Florida English department, but I remember asking him, I was like, I noticed you're not teaching a class next semester. What should I take? Like, who are the other good professors? And he was like, you know what? We got a production professor. She's probably only going to be here a couple of years because they're not going to pay her. She's legit. She went to, this great film school and she really knows what she's doing. If you have any interest, you should just try it. So I tried it and it was a lot of fun. And, actually that teacher stayed for I was a sophomore at the time. She stayed until we were her first class. And she stayed until we graduated and would just rewrite new course codes so we could just keep taking her class again, because she just really bonded with us and stuff. And she was our mentor. And yeah, in that class, like what we'd do is we'd have we'd watch films, we'd write about them or like analyze what people are doing. But she didn't really teach us anything technical. She taught us like storytelling. And then she would have us, make our own films and just present them to the class and hear what people thought and get feedback. And that was just such a fun environment. You're in there and you're just like showing something you made, you put all this work into. It's like debuting it, and then you hear what everyone thinks and you go and you like work on it some more. Just a lot of fun. And for me it was always documentaries, just because that was the first. She was a documentary professor, so that was what she knew the most about. And then also that's just we just had one camera, maybe some lights, but I didn't. It was annoying to haul them around, and we had the boom pole and the mic, and we're on little teams of two. There's two people going out and making their films, and me and my friend. It was my senior year. It was like what you might call a thesis film. Like we went down to Miami and stayed at his house and just filmed for a weekend and cut it together into something that I found pretty funny. A lot of people found funny. It was like kind of like the humor of I don't know, The Office or something, where it feels like a mockumentary, but it's real. It's like it's just a real documentary, but there's all these awkward pauses and little. The premise is there's this guy who's very passionate about the environment and like working really hard at this project, and then all his volunteers are like hungover college students, high school students that need community service hours because they got in trouble, or people that don't really care about what's going on, or no one's getting paid. So he's overbearing, and then these kids come on and they're just like, "What? Like, what do you want me to do?" And then he's getting mad, and overall it's lighthearted though, so it was fun. And yeah, it was successful, and it was like, I'm good at this. I had people come up to be like, "Oh, you got to keep doing this. You're great at it." So I listened to that, and just kept working on stuff since then. It's really been a lot of trying to fundraise for bigger projects and not having that happen and burning myself out is what most of my 20s working in that has looked like. And that, having that skill set, weirdly, the job that landed in my lap was as a freelance breaking news reporter. So during the 2020s, I would be, this is COVID, so people are burning masks. I'm there filming it. People are protesting with the BLM stuff. People are burning stuff down. After that, I'm there for all that. Like, tear gas is coming out. And then, soft stories as well. But it was a lot of that. I spent like 3 months in Minneapolis, cumulatively. DC. I passed up. This is kind of a big regret because it ended up being a huge moment, but I passed up the opportunity to go cover when they stormed the Capitol. So that was maybe I should have. I would have gotten to witness that bit of history, but also don't want to get in trouble going inside or whatever. But so yeah, that was what I did for a while, and just in various video editing jobs and stuff since then. And I still do have dreams. Like, the route keeps changing of how I'm gonna eventually get to direct a Denise Villeneuve level movie or something crazy like that. But we'll see if that happens or not. Now it's more like I realize writing and storytelling is really what I enjoy. And there's an aspect of, in documentary, you mold it, right? You just get these puzzle pieces, you go out and get them, but you don't get to control them. You just get big pieces of wood, basically, that you have to cut into puzzle pieces, sand down and polish up a little, but you can't change reality that much. And that's a cool constraint to have. That's a very interesting challenge, I think. And it's kind of similar with Midjourney, where you're collaborating with this unseen force. With a documentary, it's just the real world. With Midjourney, it's this AI model. But that I think provided enough of a framework for me to be able to be creative within. And I think I've maybe outgrown that, or just I'm less interested in it for whatever reason, and just enjoy the writing and storytelling. I would love to eventually translate that into maybe something like a film, but I'm also happy doing what I do now. So,
Hey, I mean, we're I don't even know what up, Spike. I don't even know where the time is going because we're already an hour in. But here, something I'm very interested in is talk to me about AI, right? Because is there the opportunity, right? Like you being a filmmaker, and with the implementation of AI, is there really anything that anyone can't make now? I mean, you don't need the set design like you used to. You don't need the modeling. You probably don't need the actors. You don't need the grips. You don't need the setup time. You don't need dolly cams. You don't need the cranes. Now, I'm not going to say this for everything, right? You don't need the grip trucks. You don't need the permits. You don't need the expensive camera tents. You don't need the film. You don't need the development. You don't need the transfers. You don't need. I guess yeah. Still, there's still going to be editing and an editing time. There's
Mhm.
still going to be sound and sound design. But can you go out there and make a real feature film now? And how do you think that's going to affect if you think that how do you think that AI is going to affect the industry as well? And then also, you don't really need B-roll anymore.
You don't need
I
footage.
I I guess you could. I guess you could if it's something that. Well, I mean, no, because I mean, I don't know. I don't know. This is your show, bro. You're the filmmaker. And you mentioned Midjourney, so I'm curious about, yeah. What do you think about all that?
No, that's I've thought a lot about that because I think most of the I'm friends with a lot of people in the film industry here, and they're not thrilled. I don't tell them I work with AI stuff. They hate it, because it is going to take a lot of jobs, I think, eventually. I'm not 100% sure about that, but that's the way it's trending. The technology is definitely not there yet where you can make something, it's fun keeping up to date with every time a new video model's put out. How good is the animation? How realistic does it look? How much control do you have over it? But the rate it's progressing, like right now, it's good for making like animated, like something that looks like a South Park level animation. You know what I mean? Something that doesn't look great. You can definitely do. There's been some viral stuff on Twitter where people do that with, you know, doing their own
Yeah, I've seen it.
rated.
Yeah,
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 you've
yeah.
seen it. You've seen it. Okay.
I
Um,
think they banned it. I think there's
they
something
ban it.
happened. Yeah, they banned it because people didn't know if it was real South Park episodes or not real
Oh,
South. Yeah, that's how good it got. Because
okay.
it got to the point where they couldn't tell if it was a real episode, a fake episode. But
Mhm.
something happened where they they banned. I think they did. I think I saw something about something, especially with the South Park episodes. But
Mhm.
I came across a couple where I was like, "Holy shit, is this for real?" And then I found out an AI episode. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So it's going to get better, and I think visual effects is going to be the first thing to go. It already is going with stuff like what do you call it? CGI. That was the big first one where everyone's mad. They don't do the manual effects anymore and make little dioramas. And that's going to be more AI. And eventually, you're going to have like people selling their actors just being selling their persona. You put together like it scans you or something, and you do a bunch of emotes, and then it can do they can do whatever you want. You know, make it do whatever you want. And there's a part of me that's sad because there's such like you're going to lose. I'm working on these film sets recently because I've been in between jobs and just kind of doing that to make a little money. And you'll just meet someone who's like, yeah, I knew the guy who was the pyrotechnics guy on Waterworld. It was a real boat that they lit on fire, and they got the fire to go underwater, and it's this crazy process. And you just won't need that, and you won't do it anymore. And I do the 48-hour film festivals with my friends, and there's already AI making it into those and these like small town film festivals. A lot of it's just graphics and stuff, but that is sad. And like, why would you pay to have, like you mentioned, like the amount of people that are on these film sets, and you got to feed them all, and you gotta have people managing them, and you gotta have
Huge
assistants.
fucking budgets, bro. I mean,
It's
huge
insane.
budgets are out of. It's the catering is gone, makeup and hair gone, wardrobe
Oh
gone.
yeah.
It's just you slashing budgets like
Mhm.
and the film industry is yeah, millions of dollars a day, especially on a big feature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're nervous about it, to say the least. And I think what's going to happen is it's going to become more of a boutique thing. um I have like a whole, I don't know, I've thought a lot about this for just film in general, for commercial film and stuff like that. It'll be more of a boutique. It won't go away entirely, but it won't be the only show in town. But what I think is really cool about it is, you know, in the past, like, how is it worse for me if I'm making an animated show to like come up with some drawings and then animate it in Kling or whatever, like Midjourney or whatever? How is that worse than South Park creators playing some sweatshop in Southeast Asia to do it? You know what I mean? Like, it's the same. You're outsourcing a lot of that labor, and I think what it does is empower people who don't have a budget to really tell stories and make funny stuff. And that's what's exciting for me. There's, I don't draw, I never learned to draw, but now I'm able to make arts. I consider it art. It's like you're working. It's not like you're just having the machine do it for you. There's a lot of work that goes into it. Same with those animated shows. It's still like, you think you just type it in and then it comes out like a 5-minute thing, and it's like, no, it's like these 10-second clips, and you got to do it a million times, and it's still very painstaking, and you have to be an artist and a technician to do it, but you're just not the same artists and technicians as it was 10 years ago. In the same way that, like, I don't think video editing is going to be the same job it is, the same way it's not the same job it was when you had to physically have the moviola, you spin it and then you like cut it. Like, that's gone, and it makes you a little nostalgic. But now it's like you're not even going to use stuff like Adobe Premiere. It's going to be all this, like, you can do text-based editing now. You can have the AI edit it for you. You can do, there will be some things where you'll notice the human touch is gone, I think, and that's going to be sad. Like, you notice bad CGI, you're going to notice bad AI. There was a terrible Verizon ad that everyone was pointing to on X a while ago that was clearly ChatGPT rendered, and it just sticks out. But there's also going to be really good stuff that you just never notice because it looks real. So yeah, I don't know. It's a complicated thing, but a lot of what excites me is it really feels similar to a big leap in technology, like cameras being invented, where initially you have all these painters who are like, this is stupid. Like, you can't put your personality into a camera. You know what I mean? It just captures it exactly how it is. It's a machine. It doesn't have my eyes. It doesn't make it, it doesn't capture like the texture of it is like one of the big things they would point to. And of course now, like 100, however many years later, photography has been around for so long, and you look at photography and you're like, yeah, no, that's an art. Like, there's a way of doing the lighting, the coloring. You can kind of give it a texture. You can give it emotions. And I think it's the same thing going on with AI right now, where it's like, this is just stealing other people's photos, other people's videos, other people's paintings, and copying them. And that's what a lot of people think it is right now. And you can do that in the same way you could go and run up and take a photo of a painting. You know what I mean? But like, who wants to do that? That's lame. There's so many other cool things you can use the tools for. And it's been cool exploring that myself, but also connecting. There's a lot of just really talented creators in the AI art community that are just pushing it in really interesting ways and using it to make art. So it's exciting, I think.
All right. Talk to me about, and we're going to, you know what, I want to head over. We're about an hour and 10 minutes in.
Okay.
About probably 5 minutes from now, I want to head over to the computer. I want to bring up some of your art. We'll continue the conversation as we're looking through some of your art. But talk to me about, how'd you end up in the NFT space? How'd that happen?
It's a good question. So really, I started posting my art on here because I wanted to build up a following of some kind, because I just knew that the democratization that the internet brings of being able to have income streams, being able to build up audiences and things like that, I knew I wanted to get in on that in some way. And like I mentioned, I started the AI art because I wanted to make it for stories I was writing, for books I was working on with a friend. So I started posting it because it was just, you can make them pretty quickly. And I found other people creating it, and it did relatively well. I got a lot better at it from talking to people and just from experimenting. And then I was like, oh, these guys are like selling their art. How does that work? These guys have their stuff at art shows. Like, what? I didn't, it's like I wouldn't have considered that. I was like, this is just a cool thing I do in support of my storytelling. But as I observed that, I was like, oh, like, I could be doing that too. And that's just a way to treat yourself in a more legit way, put a little bit more importance on what you're doing. Like the art scene is so funny to me, because you have people, there's silly examples like the guy taping the banana to the wall and then doing that thing art, and you're like, oh, that's not art. Or like a splatter, you're like, oh, my 5-year-old could do that. But there's something ineffable where it's like there's this weird market of value people put on things that you can't always explain in rational terms. But then it's just about making you feel something, and it's feeling something that you've never felt before. And I was like, oh, I'd love to do that. That's like, something I've always wanted to do, is make art like that. That kind of, you look at it and then you feel, it provokes some sort of emotional response. And the way to treat your creations like that are to treat them like art. So NFTs are like the way to do it online. And I, researched it and saw what other people were doing and just started minting stuff. So haven't been doing it a ton of time, but might have some, I actually just minted or launched, what's the word? Minted my launch piece on OpenSea tonight. So we'll see if that, see where that goes. But have a lot of stuff on, Object as well, just kind of in the library. And it's a cool invention, like when you first hear about it, you're like, you don't even own the print. Oh, what do you mean you own it? Whoa. And it's like, no, it's just, it's all abstract. You know what I mean? Everything's abstract about art. There's no, I heard a definition of it once where it's like, great furniture is an art because it has a purpose. Like cooking is an art because it has a purpose other than art. And what art is there's something that has no purpose besides art, to make you feel something or something like that. Not even, propaganda is not art, obviously, because it has a purpose. But, I think that carries over to something like an NFT, which also has no purpose, but it's like, it shows that you support the person. It shows that you identify with it enough to now own it. And it's a part of you. And it's a way of making something someone else created a part of you. And like, I didn't understand that until I started collecting other people. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I love that piece. And now it's part of me, So it's a cool little invention that came out of the blockchain.
Do you think it hangs on? Do you think NFTs become a thing, or do you think it fades into time?
That's a good question. I mean, I think a lot of that depends on where cryptocurrency goes, right? So a lot of people think we're trending towards the government digitizing currency and putting it on their own blockchain, or maybe using one of the existing blockchains. And in that case, then everything will be an NFT, or at least have NFT capabilities, and that will be the standard way of doing commerce. So I think it has staying power as long as we don't get an EMP or something, you know what I mean? As long as the internet doesn't go out and, we go back to agrarian ways. It seems to have a lot of utility. I know there's pitfalls, you can hack someone and steal and all that. And, it's complicated. You forget your keys, you send it to the wrong code and you just lose all your money. But I don't know. I think it has some staying power. What do you think? I'm curious. You don't think so?
I don't know. I think there's a strong argument for use cases of it. I think has a really bad, you talk about NFTs, there's no art there. It's what's an NFT? Non-fungible token, right? There's no art in there. So I think it's marketed poorly, right? Oh my God, you sell NFTs, and then so the first thing you token, and then you get it, and then it's connected to crypto, and then wait, what? And crypto's got such a bad rap. I heard about that stuff, right? And then as like you said, it's very complicated. Especially when it comes to, onboarding someone or getting someone involved. That's a whole circus. You got to get your wallet, your passphrase. Don't send it here. Don't write it down. Don't click on anything. Anybody could send you anything. You click on one thing by mistake. Oh, look at this. It's a gift. The shit drains your wallet. You got to watch it's like, this is not like beginner level stuff, but then, it's complicated, right? But then there's a con in everything. It's you walking down the street and I got a stereo, and you end up buying a box of rocks, and so there's a con in and there's a scheme, and there's in everything, right? But at the end of the day, it's what becomes simplified. So like, there's a back end, right? As the easier the back end becomes, nobody ever, you run your credit card, you're not worried about all the how come you run your credit card 100 times a day? You're not worried about like how the signal of the card and the processing of the card goes through a whole system of checks and balances, make sure there's money on the card, sends it to boom, 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 accept it, right? You don't know nothing about what goes on over here. You just run the card, you get what you want, and then you get the bill in the mail. It's imagine the very first use cases of a credit card. So to me, it's kind of like that's where it is. However, what a credit card is due to the labeling of what the process is. In the beginning, what if they called that like animal crackers? Oh, use animal crackers to buy this. Like what? Like, and then it evolved over time. So I think like the whole NFT thing, like nobody, there's so many use cases for it. Now, let me tell you what I do like about the whole situation is that, and you know what? I'm going to move over to the computer, start switching around the screens while I talk. But what I do like about the situation is the blockchain and the use of the blockchain, the way you can lock things into the blockchain. See, that is something that I think is very intriguing because when you bring the blockchain into the conversation, it's like, oh, wait a second. I could create art and I could lock it into the blockchain and I could copyright my art from the second that that I think is super appealing. I think that's like the biggest part of, I think that's the, one of the biggest appealing factors when it comes to the, crypto, NFTs, the blockchain, is the fact that you have a digital way to identify copyrights, who used it first, who created it first, who designed it first. You have a ledger, so to speak, where you can go back and you can check this ledger in court cases, and you could use it for all sorts of things, right? It's hey, you telling me I could go back in time and, I could, I could go back and I could see who, in the film world, in the photography world, anybody can claim fame to ownership by downloading something online. But you go to court, who's gonna show up with the digital file that proves that I shot it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And to me, that's where the real ownership lies. Because when you go into court and you got somebody else claiming ownership of your art, to me, it's like, who's got the original file, right? And then now you show up with the original file, the original date. Also, social media does prove this a lot, right? Because you could open up social media, you could prove who posted it first. The minute I took that photo, I edited it and I posted it when I shot it. Now you have this digital record, right? That cannot be altered unless by the company itself. But even blockchain, less, right? And so to me, that I think is a huge plus when it comes to artists, because you could really trace the origin of who created the art, especially in this time and now. So I think the whole earth becomes responsible, because even if someone is using it over in China or someone's using your art here or there, right now there is a universal way to track who's using what. You could do image searches. You could do, blockchain locks these things into a blockchain that, really gives you this. For instance, physicals. Let's say you get into selling physicals, and I've always said that I love the blockchain for the use of, and you see Transient Labs doing this. and I've been talking about this for months in Spaces, how you buy a piece of art and it comes with an RFD. Am I saying it right? RFD chip, or a QR code, or a sticker, or something attached to it, or something, right? And then you can scan that, and then that would bring you into the digital blockchain file that shows you the date. And now, as this thing sells, you can trace who it goes to, how it exchanges, And so I think there's phenomenal, I think it finally gives the artists the copyrights that they deserve, especially people creating physical stuff, original stuff, originality, right? There is a way now to track the original file of the artist throughout the blockchain, throughout the digital movements, throughout who's using it. And then there's also a way to double check that in the court of law when someone takes your stuff and uses it for something else. And now, hey, where did this originate from? And I think a lot of times we have difficulty figuring out the origination of art. And I think this really corrects a lot of that. And since AI will eventually begin to take over a lot of what humans are doing, and since robots will take over a lot of what humans are doing, I think that a lot of humans will only have an option to be an entertainer of sorts. Whether you're a filmmaker, a storyteller, a photographer, an artist, a songwriter, a story writer, a digital influencer, right? All of these things will now, that's what are you going to do when you lose your job? How are you going to create income, even though everyone says everything will be super cheap? What are you going to do with your time?
Right.
And then, are you going to tap into, being a creator? Because now you have nothing but time on your hands because your trait has been taken over by, a couple robots that will not make an error where they will, the biggest expense, I believe, in companies is human error, human theft, right? Every company plan that is created writes in human theft. There's a human theft clause, add in 10% for human theft. Like what? Add in 15% for human error, right? Now when companies realize they can knock all that out because there's no error, they don't have to worry about humans being involved. It's a quick move. It's a no-brainer. We're going to make how much profit? This profit is going to cover our switch to AI and robots, and then boom, boom, boom. Now, there is always the use case of there being an error along the way that then translates to over 1 million human beings that wipe themselves off the planet in a heartbeat because, but I mean, that could trend on TikTok tomorrow. Hey, everybody, if you take this pill, it makes you smarter. Or if you take this substance, it makes you smarter. And then, 1,000 people, 1 million people are gone overnight. Okay, I'm on your X. Let's get started. I'm going to open up your link tree and guide me to what we want to show.
Yeah, so you can see the gallery maybe on objects would be cool to look at. That's
okay.
Maybe a little bit older pieces, but they're fun, colorful, kind of psychedelic stuff.
I also got an Instagram and a TikTok. You got stuff over here? Oh, you do.
Okay. Yeah, I've been animating a lot and just putting stuff on TikTok.
Okay.
See if anything happens. And that algorithm seems pretty creator friendly, at least for now.
Yeah, very, very, very. I think TikTok is one of those platforms that everybody needs to be on because it gives everybody a chance. I think IG a little bit harder. I think you got to break in. I'm gonna go down to the beginning of IG and I'm gonna start. I think that's usually where I like to start. Then maybe I'll click over to TikTok. Then maybe we'll end on object. I think that's a good. Would that be a right
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. Is that a good evolution of?
Yeah, and then I plugged the Substack at some point too. It's not really fun to show articles. You're not going to sit there and read them, but I do have a Substack where I do a lot of long form fiction and nonfiction. I got some short stories on there. I've started a novel that I'm just putting out by chapter and did some long essays. Actually, very similar to what we've been talking about. I've got an essay on the future of film and how to adapt to AI and what direction I think I should go in. I've got an essay on kind of understanding yourself. We were talking about imprinting a lot earlier. I think what most people call their personality is just a series of imprints they got as children, and most people don't look beyond that. That's what I think. That's what a lot of astrology is. That's or whatever it is. Your Harry Potter house, all of that's like imprints. We're going to the old stuff.
Yeah. Well, this is the beginning, right?
So that's that first one with the lady on the bench was like the one I made for my friend's novel that he's working on. This is some V6 stuff.
When you first got into this, I see a lot of Midjourney. Is Midjourney your go-to?
Yeah, I think it's the I think a lot of people would agree it might be the best in terms of generating images with very unique styles and very particular styles and high quality. It gives you a lot of control over there's a lot of different codes you can put in that will impact both the content and the style of the image. So you can get really specific and creative with it.
Let me say what up to all these guys. What up? I see you guys all chatting in X. Spike, I'm glad you made it over here. I did see you over on Facebook, but what up, Noble? What up, Hito? What up, Jenny? Let me make sure I say hello to you guys while you're here. Mibosa, what up, Mibosa? Nice to see all you guys. And the Gnostic Alien getting me all excited with clips of before this show, getting me all charged up with the Wolf of Wall Street over there. So before you mentioned that it's not just something that happens from typing something in or one click, right? That there is a little bit of an art to it. And people really do fear AI. They have a massive gripe with it, but is it more than just, what type of time does it take to actually get what it is you're looking for? And a question, do you always get what it is you have in your mind, or do you end up submitting to something where you're like, close, or this will do, or this is better than what I had in mind, or does Photoshop ever come into play, collage work? Yeah, like your process and your thoughts on the process of creating.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it can just type in a prompt, and then if you're satisfied with what you get, then you crank them out very quickly, and it's up to the creator. And I think at first I was just doing prompts, then I understood how to add personalized codes. I understood how to use style reference codes, and then you get a little more intricate with it. And that's work on the front end. It's more like research on how to operate the machine. And you can even, it'll show you just image after image, and you can rank them, and then you end up with a ranked profile, or you just download a bunch of images from what you've made and add it to a mood board or something like that, so that you can put a lot of work in on the front end. And I've done that. Like I noticed when I was doing stuff that were just prompts, where I was like, I was following my imagination. It's like, what about a painting in the style of this painter I knew of? What if there was a UFO in there? So I do stuff like that, and people I'm not getting a ton of followers from that. It's just kind of my personal, this would be interesting. Although, some people liked it, but it didn't look that different from what everyone else was making. And I think the secret sauce in Midjourney is to make something that's both pretty, interesting, and all of that, but is also different from what everyone else is already doing. And that's really where you have to push the boundaries of the machine. and it becomes this collaborative process where it's like, I know what the themes are that I want to explore. I know what's, maybe I like this color palette. I like these sorts of images that have, bright colors and, dream worlds that are partially rendering and stuff like that. But I don't know what it's going to give me every time. You just have it output and output and output until eventually you find something that strikes a chord with you. So it's very similar to kind of film editing for me, where you're just sifting for gold almost, and then you get that moment, you're like, oh, this is the thing that is, I just really like this, And then I do, for me, I'll do that, and then I'll take it and put it into Lightroom to fix the colors and the lighting and everything. And then sometimes I'll do a little Photoshop. That's more Noble kind of showed me. He does that a lot, and he was showing me what you can do with that. So recently I've been adding text or adding a little texture to it and things like that. But most of it's done on the front end in Midjourney, and then a little bit of just touching up for the most part.
What I noticed that there's a lot of themes. I understand no, I don't. I'm going to ask that next. But where did Astral come from?
So like the place beyond, as a kid, I watched Twilight Zone. So, it's like a dimension, not of sight and sound, but of mind, is, how that intro starts. And that the name for that place is the Astral Plane. These places of existence that are not the physical world, but you still have access to through your mind. Whether that's the mental plane, that's the plane of emotions, or the dream world that, a lot of cultures say precedes the world that we're in. Like you hear a lot of people say, we're a dream within a dream, or we're just, God is dreaming up reality and things like that. And there are these levels of reality, you access them in your dreams or on a meditation, using some sort of plant, where the rules of reality are a little different. Where that's where art comes from. That's where creativity comes from. Where symbols are what hold power, and you see something in a dream and it has meaning to you, but like the logic of the dream doesn't make any sense, and it wouldn't make sense in the real world. So basically, I'm just trying to, some of it's just stuff that looks cool if it were a blacklight poster, but that's really what I'm trying to go for, is like capturing what that plane kind of looks or feels like, in imagery that maybe evokes certain lessons I've learned from getting to go there, or or just looks cool a lot of the time. There's a lot of like sci-fi, like imagining new worlds and stuff like that. But all of that for me was a place that I spent a lot of time in. I mentioned I read a lot as a kid. It's a lot of science fiction where you're discovering new worlds and you're just making sense of this whole new place, and all that takes place in the imaginal, in the astral realm. So it's like just bringing that into my art is really the goal with the whole project.
I love how you integrate the blueprint or the wireframe, the wireframe into. I love the way that combination. How
Thank you.
Yeah, that's I've always loved that feel and that look. But I like how you integrate reality with the wireframe. I got a question for you. Are there aliens, and have you met them yet?
Man,
what do you think?
But I mean, probably. I mean, it depends on how you define an alien. I think there are beings that are more advanced than us. Their intelligences, they're non-human. They're not on. I've been in a couple spaces recently where stuff like like this has come up, and someone brought up.
What do you think about this? The AI3 Atlas. I don't know what they're calling it. The Atlas. Am I saying it right? The big ship that everybody is, some big ship flying around in space right now. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what that is.
Come on, bro. This has been like the biggest thing everyone's talking about. This ship that's flying. This is huge ship flying around up in space, and it's not doing things that an asteroid would do. It's
2025 Atlas.
3-eye Atlas. Thank you,
Yeah,
Hito.
I thought I probably saw that and just assumed it was AI.
Nah, bro, this is like some. This is like everybody is. Come on, you AI in too much. So there's this rock that there's this asteroid rock spaceship, and it's kind of going through the space, and it's not doing things that normal things the way it should move. And now they're taking pictures, and it's all sorts of shit. And so it's the aliens. The aliens have arrived, from what I understand. But if they do arrive and anybody sees them, tell them I'd like them to come on the Hour of Power. But, until they do get on the Hour of Power, I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that. Because technically, now, this is where the argument begins. There's no real, I've never seen any real proof. I've never shook any hands. I have never seen anything flying around. I've never, I would think that with all of this, Area 51 stuff, somebody would sneak out with a ray gun, a piece of metal, just something that, and I've never really seen any concrete proof that, regardless of the stories and the YouTubes and this has got to be that, but like, show me something, right? And I haven't seen anything yet that really got me like, what the fuck? Like, so it's not that I don't believe. I do believe there's other life out there. But, if I was flying by Earth and I saw all the space junk circling our planet, I'd be like, yeah, we're not. Let's go somewhere else. Like, that place looks a little too dirty for me. But what do you think about all that?
No, it's a good question. I mean, I'll give you my thoughts on the aliens. Is what I think that there have been many versions of Earth, if you will, many planets that have had, or maybe through time, just like civilizations of people. And there's a way you can evolve. And I think what we think of as an alien are just civilizations that have evolved past whatever stage we're at now, and they exist on different. They exist with us at the same time, but in a different dimension. And it's so alien visitations, I think, are trans-dimensional rather than coming on a ship from somewhere far away. But that might be how we experience it in this dimension, if that makes sense. Like, that's at least how we have to wrap our hands around it, is they're going to come in from far away and then they're going to show up here, even though they could apparate next to you right now. That would be my guess. I obviously haven't met them unless that's who I was talking to on ayahuasca. You know what I mean? But I think that it explains a lot of demonology, angels, and things like that. There are groups that have evolved towards being benevolent. There are groups that have evolved towards being selfish. That's where you get demons. That's where you get the gray aliens that come down and probe you and abduct you and all that. When you get the benevolent aliens that are either angels or, like, people talk about, what is it, the Galactic Federation and stuff like that. People channel these benevolent, like the Law of One and things like that. So that framework always made sense to me. I like it when everything kind of fits in something and it doesn't make you feel too crazy. Have I met them? No. No, I don't. Who am I to say?
I'll say this, right? Whatever religious beliefs you have doesn't, to me, I think over time, I'm just going to be very political about this. I'm going to be very gray area about this, right? I think there is obviously something out there, right? What you choose to call it, what you choose to refer to it, that's your beliefs, right? And so, but there is some type of supreme being or the universe. I call it the universe, right? That's how I refer to everything, as the universe. And I just find that as humans, it's we go through life and we have these thoughts. I got to do this. I need to do that. I need to create this. I need to create light. I need to create light speed. I need to break the sound barrier, right? Humans have this thing in them where they're constantly evolving in the form of creation. We could never go back to the caveman formula because we've gone past like cell phones, right? Nobody's ever put their cell phone down and went back to a beeper. Nobody's ever said, yeah, I'm gonna go live in a cave. I mean, there's some people, I'm going to go live off grid. But even if they live off grid, they have electricity, they have solar panels. So it's not like they're really living off grid. They've taken humans' accomplishments and they live off grid, meaning that nobody can find them, but they're still using technology. They're still using, Garmin. It's all sorts of the way we filter water. Right? They're not drinking straight from the street. They're living with the conveniences of technology, but they call it off grid, right? We've never gone backwards as a human race. We've only gone forwards, right? You have Elon Musk, who now is he's working on a project of a tunnel that connects America and London, right? It'd get there in an hour. And so it's but here's the crazy thing. Let's talk about Star Trek or Star Wars, right? And all of this, aliens, all this crazy shit that we've, as humans, created in films, and we call it imagination, right? We call it, oh, you're very imaginative. Now, as you go through life, you experience things. We talked about that earlier in the show. Maybe somebody told you your entire life you're no good. You're not creative. Maybe that shit sticks. Maybe somebody has been very, supportive but we've created all of this art. We'll call it art, film, movies, ideas. Look at Star Trek, right? Star Trek got the light speed. Star Trek had light speed, Star Wars had light speed. It's you see all of these things that came out in the 1970s, sci-fi books, right? Where did we come up with all of this? Alien invasions, a War of the Worlds. We say that they're created by very creative people, but are we drawing from this universal knowledge, or where are people getting that? A lot of times I've said to myself, question mark. I could see the building with the big spinning question mark up on top with 4 wings, and each wing is different for, there's a media, there's a music, there's a art, there's a, and so, but where did that ever happen? What part in my life did some, that was in me? When I used to shoot I still do, photography, I used to get these crazy visions, these crazy ideas of art. And then, and you see this with artists, but where are we pulling all of this from? Where is this all coming from? And so is there a universal knowledge? Is there others? I do believe, it's a lot of times people say your soul, right? Where's your soul? Does your soul get uploaded back to the universal knowledge pool? And so when I look at your art, I think of all of this right now, because it's the astral plane. You're creating from the to me, everything behind your art takes place in the universe. I don't see any in the beginning I saw clouds and sky, but now everything is taking place in this universe. You're way off the planet, bro. You're out there. You know what I'm saying? And so it's interesting as I'm looking through your art because it involves so many. But the one thing that I do see unison is all the skies are taking place in the universe, right? And there's always some sort of bigger force that is playing checkers with the planet, so to speak, right?
Uh-huh.
So regardless of what you've learned, a lot of this I think we can tap into if we believe in it, but because we haven't seen it, we don't believe in it. And it's not that I don't believe in aliens. I think there's something out there. Or we just know, we just haven't seen them yet, or we haven't seen it. The universe is way too big for us to be the only people in it, right?
Mhm.
There's got to be something else out there. So this piece right here, you have a large being over with his hands over the earth, right?
Mhm.
I'm not going to call it God. I'm not going to call it Buddha. I'm not going to call it, people like to label things. It makes things very easy for them to accept.
Mhm.
But, that's how we end up in wars, because people want to fight over what they believe instead of believing that it's just, maybe it's one thing, but we've labeled it 70 different things because we all came up from different parts of the planet when there was no interaction. Yeah, I'm gonna let you roll from here, but that's the thoughts that I'm getting from your artwork, that you've actually tapped into a much larger universe than what we see from day to day in front of us.
No, that's cool to hear. There's so much I want to respond to in what you said. I guess I'll start. I do agree with you that there's like this, there's like an ocean that flows through us of creativity, and I've noticed it sometimes where I'll have an idea and I don't have the means to act on it, and I'll just see it come out through some other person or in some other way. And I've realized it wasn't that I had the idea, that I like I created it with my brain. It was more like it was a fish that wanted to swim through, and I just didn't have the means to let it through, and someone else caught the fish or like let it through. So I do think that world exists, and I do think that's how creativity happens to a large extent. It's just really cool to hear you say that the art is producing those kinds of questions, because that's what I'm trying to capture to a certain degree. And it's that realm where things are symbolic, really, where nothing, the literal, what's going on, like in a dream, what literally happens is less important to what it kind of symbolizes. And I think that goes to, like, people, you know, brush that off, but that's what people go to war over, over these symbols, right?
Yeah.
They're like, there's this, divine, ineffable thing that has no structure, and then you pass down and like you give it a symbol before, in your mind, and you associate it with your source, and you're willing to go to war for your source, right? But it's, people don't understand that you're labeling the same thing with a different stamp. But we can't really, that's how we make sense of this world. We're Odin hung upside down. You have to hang yourself upside down and let it and see things upside down to understand that you're supported by all these roots, if that makes sense. That there's so much foundation to your reality that you just don't see. You think that the imagination is something that this is my big like philosophical point, I guess we'll get into, is that you're, in the West at least, you're brought up to think that we are this random assembly of energy and matter moving around. Somehow through random chance, it assembled itself into DNA, and somehow through millennia of evolution, that became a germ, and then eventually a plant, and then a monkey, and then us. And there's nothing besides that. It's just there's nothing, and there's no meaning. There's just this material interacting with each other, and that is just so incorrect. Like, when you think about it for 5 minutes, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But a lot of people are trapped in that way of thinking, and I was for a while. And having stepped out of it, what you realize is that is just such a gray, bleak, depressing way of seeing the world. And there's just so much more to it. There are like there's an intelligence that's constantly talking to you in different ways. There's, the world is alive. There are these different kind of planes that you can tap into that you just don't pay attention to, and you write off as imagination. You write off as a product of your rational mind. You write off as like mammalian, different mammalian centers of your brain producing emotional responses in order to mediate your relationship with other mammals. But I at least believe there's more to it than that. And when you start to live that way, you start to understand it more, and life is just more fun, that you get the magic back into living, which is the whole reason I think that we dream this dreams, to have this sort of magical adventure. And I think the part of that is, waking up from the false dream, if you will, that maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you come here to just be like an accountant or whatever, that lives in this world of facts and figures and rationality and numbers. And that's also like a unique experience you can go through. But that's not what I was drawn towards. And I think it was my pain that led me towards, experimenting in these different ways of thinking and different modalities and stuff. So it was a lot I threw at you, but that's something that I just believe, and try to capture a little bit with what I'm putting together.
I also get a very you a Grateful Dead guy or anything?
I feel like maybe I would be if I were 20 years older. I don't remember when they came out, but I do like a little like that type of music, I guess.
Well, I get a very Jerry Garcia, Pink Floyd type. I don't know if you never know what someone listens to, what they grow up around, or but really, even more interesting if you're not, because it's just like, where'd you tap into this from, right? Like where did you tap into this style that existed 40, 50, 60, maybe before you even born? Something that you don't even know of, and then you're creating, and you're tapping into this. It's I always found it interesting with human beings how you're not the only person who had that thought. On the other side of the planet, somebody had that thought as well. And as the human race was evolving, people were designing houses differently, but people still came up with the same thought without even knowing that they were on the other side of the planet. Other people coming up with the same thoughts, saying, yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. So how is that happening? How did that happen, that all these people had the same thought at the same time? And, oh, we need shelter. Oh, we need clothes. Oh, we need this. We need we have music. Oh, we need a language to communicate to each other, right? And now, we could fast forward to today, and there's Russia, and there's China, there's the Asia, there's Australia, there's there's Egypt, and the South, there's Africa, and there's all these different places. There's America. There's all these different places where all of these different evolutions happened, but nobody else knew or was aware that all these other people were on the planet until technology got to that point, until planes, boats, ships, planes, trains, and then you go visit other places and be like, what the fuck? Like what? And then you see all the different stuff, and now we have all these different cultures and influences and different ways that people have evolved, right? But everybody had that thought at the same time.
The Alan Watts puts it really well. He says something like the apple tree apples, and the lemon tree lemons, or something like that, and the earth peoples. And you think of the way it produces an apple, it's like first it's a leaf, and you take in the sun, and then it's a flower, and then eventually that gets pollinated, and that turns into an apple, and then that falls off and becomes a new tree. So I see those, it's just appling. It's just when people come up with calculus, it was just time to make calculus, and it's going to come out. You don't know what tree and what branch and what leaf is going to turn into the flower that gives you the apple that is, the automobile or calculus or something like that. And, maybe it's just one that falls out, and then it pollinates and spreads to the rest of the world, like you were saying. But I do think we're this collective organism that just undergoes, of its own accord through individuals, but of its own accord creates progress like that.
How do you tap into your ideas? Do you see them I
think sometimes I'll see, honestly, I'll get see something someone else created, and it'll give me an idea because I do spend a lot of time on X looking at other people's stuff. But you know, I have certain themes that I'm trying to get out, and a lot of it's just developing a new combination of codes that gives you an aesthetic, and then kind of running through on my head like, oh, I bet like a wizard would look cool here. I bet, you know, a giant eyeball would look cool here. I bet this would, you know, an alien would look cool here or whatever, and just trying it out and just seeing what fits that aesthetic, and then seeing if I can start to tell a story around it. You know, sometimes I do make art specifically for like a story or something that I already have in mind or I already have written, or maybe an article. And then sometimes I just do it after, you know, that collaborative process with the AI model.
And now I'm going to say the majority of this art you created with, this is all Midjourney?
Yeah, pretty much all of it. And then the animation, I think I use different models in Base Labs. I think it's mostly Kling that I use, but the initial image is Midjourney into Lightroom, into Photoshop, into an animator.
Have you messed around with VO at all, or do you mess around with other engines?
I was using VO a lot for animation as well. They're just kind of expensive both within Base Lab, and to have I did like I forget how much it is a month, but you only get 3 generations a day. So it was like, oh, it's my time to do my 3 generations. And I just got tired of paying for that because you don't get a lot for it. But I did like the model. It was, I think, the best for at least like a couple weeks, but other ones have caught up.
What else you like out there?
What else do I like out there for AI stuff, or just in general?
Well, you know what you mentioned most, which really hurt my soul. You said Premiere won't exist.
That's my day job, is using Premiere.
I went to war in my college days because they told me Premiere couldn't handle. So I had a neighbor next to me. I just told somebody this story. I had a neighbor who lived next to me. He was Italian, right off the boat, accent and everything. He used to do weddings. He used to shoot big weddings, like the high-end weddings. And he was the only person in New York who owned, it was called a Cam Mate. It was a 36 long foot boom that you could control the camera on the end of it. It had the gears and everything, and if you had it set up to the right camera, the right lenses, you can control the camera and film the shots. And so the only reason he called me up, he's Marco, I need you to carry the cases. And so I would go with him. But oddly enough, this guy, his Cam Mate, people would find him and rent him. And so I got a chance to be part of the World Trade Center, the 2 towers. There was a film in one of them. You go up to the top of, I think it was building number 1, and you could eat in the restaurant, and you could go on the film, and the film took you all around town. And so we had worked on that production. And then we filmed the end scene of the helicopter landing on the helipad. And so it's this Cam Mate really brought us around to, there's a building with there's a castle underneath the Verrazano Bridge, or maybe it's the BQE. Yeah, BQE to Verrazano. And so this Cam Mate really brought in a lot of fascinating jobs, because he was only one of 3 people who had this camera that he used at weddings, right? Nobody would hire it for weddings because nobody wanted to pay that cost for a wedding video. But, it ended up working for all these film production companies. And I forgot where I was going with this. I was going somewhere with this, and I forgot where I was going with it. Thank you. So that's kind of how I started getting into film, and then I started doing more productions, and I started working on film sets. Ended up going to NYU, and I went to war at college with teachers because of the Avid.
Oh yeah.
And
Those were yeah, everyone wanted you to learn Avid. No one uses Avid anymore. I mean,
what?
some people do.
Oh, so wait, let me tell
Yeah.
you the story.
Step on it.
So the Avid, at the time there was we would do our student films on 16 millimeter, 35 millimeter if you had the money, but 16 millimeter Aeroflexes was what was made available to us. You'd rent the equipment out of the film school, and then you would go out on the weekend and shoot your student film. You would use all your own funding and so forth and so on. So I had put a lot of money into my student film, and the only thing that existed was the Avid. The Avid was like at the end of the editing hall, and everybody had to learn the Avid because the Avid was like, this is what filmmakers use, this is what film production companies use, and so forth and so on. And so it was imperative that you learn the Avid. And of course, me being me, I never really understood the point of using the Avid when I had Adobe Premiere on my own computer at home. And so I started to tinker like I normally do. And you get the Avid 1 hour a week, and that's what you edit on. So how the fuck am I supposed to make a good film? Editing on the Avid 1 hour. Like by the time you got your hard drive hooked up, by the time you digitized all your shit and got your by the time you plug in, you know what I'm saying, right? I don't have to explain all the okay. So by the time you got your hard drive plugged in, your files up, your file open, and you're working, and then now the Avid was the only thing that could punch out an EDL list. That's it. And I'm like, man. So okay, right. That's where this came in. The Italian filmmaker, right? He would go to NAB every year. You know what NAB is?
No.
Vegas, National Association of Broadcasters,
Okay.
puts on a big show where they release all the new equipment at NAB every year. We used to go every year because he had comped. He would shoot so Hitachi. He would use Hitachi backs for Betacams, and he would do the intro, the VHS cassette that came with the Betacam that showed you how to work the camera. He's the one who shot those. So Hitachi would bring him and the whole crew out there. So I would go to NAB every year just for that. I would get to see all the new equipment, and Adobe was big at that. And I remember like mini DVs just first came out, and I'm like, Tony, bro, you got to switch to mini DV. He's like, no, the Betacam, make the best image. And I'm like, bro, mini DV is the future. Like they got this Sony, you could switch out the lenses, you could connect the it's the lens, Tony. The Betacam captures the best of video. Like, no, bro, it's the lens. Like mini DV is just, it's different, bro. It's different. Spike knows. Spike's my age. He's talking about 3/4 inch tape, so he knows. He knows about he knows about what I'm talking about too. We would argue about the DV, mini DV, and I'm saying it's the lenses, bro. You get the right lenses on those cameras, you could shoot like film, and it's so. We were all tech heads, and then I ended up at NAB, and then I met Adobe, and I was at the same time I'm arguing with NYU, and I'm arguing right with college clans back, and I'm like, I'm not fucking editing my film for 1 hour a week. Like I spent $30,000 on this. Like, and classes and school, and you got me in here for how could I fucking edit this, right? So, Mike, I could edit this on Adobe Premiere. Like, no, you can't. Like, yes, I can. And, like, even if you could, we wouldn't pass you because that's not allowed. I don't give a shit about what you allow. What I give a shit about is having a great film for my reel. Like, this is the purpose of, like, film school. Like, so, long story short, I made my way out to NAB one year. And I put together this computer because I was also working as a mechanical engineer. I was working as a mechanical engineer in the morning, and then I was going to film school at night. And so I would take classes at night and back and forth. And so I had a fair amount of money from engineering job, my engineering, right? I would do HVAC. I would install all the heating via Vesda fire protection. I would lay all this out on AutoCAD. So I took some money and I built a machine for $15,000, and I put a Canopus card in it, which I'm not sure if too many people know what that is. And eventually it was originally like, it was called the Radium, but then I had a Canopus card, and then I went to NAB and I cornered the Adobe crew, and I was like, show me how to make an EDL list. Can you make an EDL list with Adobe Premiere? And they were like, absolutely. And so they showed me how to do it, and I was like, holy shit. I transferred my film to Mini DV. I brought my film footage in through Mini DV. There was this one place in the city. It was like, oh shit, I can't remember it. It was the only place you wanted to go to transfer it. I transferred it to Beta. I had my next door neighbor move it from Beta to Mini DV. It actually carried over all the time code perfectly. And then I set the time code on the Premiere, and before you knew it, I was editing my film at home in my underwear, in the convenience of my own bedroom. My own bedroom became Question Mark Studios, and next thing you know, I had a line of students coming into my house because I was punching out EDL lists. Eventually this got me knocked out of NYU because that's not the way you do things. So but I found my own way of doing things, and all of a sudden, I started building computers and editing machines for all the students. And
wow.
the crazy thing about it was, like 2-3 years later, IMAX came out, and everybody was editing. But yet I was the fucking guy that they took aim on because I was the disruptive one. I was causing all these issues within the classes because everybody was like, psst, psst. How did you edit your film at home, and have punch out a negative EDL list, and so I don't know why I wanted to share that story with you.
No, I'm glad you did.
Oh, Premiere, right? Because you hurt my Premiere, bro. Is a part of my life. Everybody always told me. No, Avid, or all these iMac, Media Composer. I forgot. I think is it Media Composer that was on iMac? Yeah, iMac. And I always used to argue. I'm like, fucking Premiere is the best. Premiere was like, is in my blood. And when you said no more Premiere, bro, you took a small piece of my life with you when you said that earlier.
It'll be there. They'll just add AI tools to Premiere. They're already doing it.
You see it right now in Premiere, what they're implementing. After Effects is a huge part of my life. Spike even Premiere was the shit, Spike, and nobody believed me. They all said it was like some fucking, it's just a stupid program. It works on PC. You can't use it for nothing. I'm like, bro, Premiere is the best. It even makes more sense when you edit over Avid. Like, it never made sense to me. But
it was funny because my professor was like, yeah, they made me learn Avid, but no one uses it. So I'm pissed they made me learn it. So you guys are gonna have to learn Premiere on your own, because I'm not gonna make you learn Avid, but I don't know how to teach you Premiere. But Premiere is, you just watch some Linda tutorials or something.
That's right. Yeah. So it's a fucking crazy how I took so much heat, and now here we are, almost 30 years later. And look at how everything worked out. I gotta tell you, it makes me. I feel good about how everything worked out. I remember my last words were like, "Fuck you! I'm going to UCLA where they blow shit up anyway." I was upset about that because I was innovative and I was innovating, and I saw a different way to do things, and I ended up becoming like. Yeah, don't go near more. Like, I had a saying. Everybody wanted me to work on their film, but nobody wanted to ever work on my film. Yeah, it was like everybody wanted me to work on their film, but nobody ever wanted to get down with me because Mauro's out there. He's doing weird shit. Like,
Oh yeah.
he's not playing by the rules, and I was like shunned, and I'm like, you know what, it's just. But all right. So is there I went through your IG while we talked. I went through your TikTok, and I also went through your object. And I don't know if there's anything in particular or specific that you want to bring attention to or talk about.
So there's two things. One is I just launched. I don't have the link in there, but I tweeted it out. I launched on OpenSea, and hopefully I'll be putting out. I think I'm going to make that into a collection, and just have the launch piece come out. And then the second thing is there's a project that I'm working on with a lot of people in the AI art space, including your man Noble, but a lot of other people. And we're launching a magazine, so that should be pretty fun.
Are there any links for this that you want me to show?
No, maybe they can follow. People can follow it on Twitter. It's I'll send that to you now.
If you want to send me the link in my DM too, I could bring it right
yeah.
up on screen.
Oh, cool. So here is the launch piece. And then
got it.
Made this. We don't have any posts yet, but this is this will be where it is, and we're got the launch coming probably sometime this week or next. We're putting a lot of work into it. Basically, with the magazine, what we're thinking is, my thought on it, because we're all collaborating on it, but I put a lot of the writing into it, is treating the creation of generative AI as on par with the invention of the camera, which means treating it like a real art form and exploring what makes it new and unique, and what makes the same way that you're exploring what makes good photography and what makes bad photography. What is AI art and what is AI slop, and grappling with the ethics of using it and things like that. So we're going to publish some of the best works that we see put out on X. We're doing our voting now, the editorial board, for what's going to be in the premiere issue. And then also we've got a lot of people writing about those topics I mentioned. I'll be writing about it, and a bunch of other people in the space are contributing some essays. So hopefully be pretty interesting, and maybe an entry point for people that aren't involved in the space to kind of understand what's going on there, and also highlight the best of what we've seen.
I got it's BLND Blender magazine. Well, I don't know, but it's BLND magazine. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So it's just the name without the vowels.
Okay, gotcha. And then I also got your I got the OpenSea page up as well. Leap of Faith. So I have both of those up on screen, so you guys could check out his new post. We got all these guys talking. We got Spike. Spike is reminiscing right now. So I guess everybody says, so we didn't know each other back then, Spike, but we all went through the same shit. So I don't believe in coincidences. Goalie's in here talking about Premiere. Yeah. So I guess it's just interesting now how we've all gravitated, and they're all in your fucking chat right now, bro. So very, very interesting. So I gotta tip my hat to Noble. When I see stuff like this lining up, Noble called it correctly. So Noble, guys, Astral was Noble's call for the show. He said it would be a great show, and he did not disappoint. So thank you very much, Noble.
Thank you.
Okay. Astral, real quick, did we go over everything? Did I miss anything?
I think that was everything I wanted to cover.
Okay.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
So wait, we're not over yet. We got about 10 more minutes. Quick question. real quick, how does everybody find you? How do they locate you? How do they?
I'm most active on X, so that's where I'll, probably be more responsive to messages. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok, and I have, I guess, less followers on those, so I'll probably maybe see the comments a little easier, but I'm also on them less. And the handle's the same. It's Astral Postcards, except for Instagram. So I'm going to taking that, so it's just a singular postcard, so no S. And then I'm also on Substack, which is the Astral Post. So that's where you'll find like the longer form writing. But all of that gets shared through my X page. The only thing that's kind of not on there would be a lot of the videos I just post on TikTok. But yeah, everything else you can find. X is kind of like the home base.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me just do this real quick. All right, guys. So it's Astral Postcards on X. You see his X is up right now. This is his tag. On his tag, he has his link tree. His link tree will bring you to everything else as well. You got his X, his Instagram, his TikTok, and his Substack up here. Also links down here, and then also Object, Rodeo, and Art for Sale, which I haven't clicked on, which is Fine Art America. You have this stuff on Fine Art America. Thank you.
Yeah, no one. I've noticed no one really does that. Some people will say they want to buy prints, but I think the
Hey,
NFTs
I
are
was
all
just about to tell you I learned something new.
yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. I don't, why not? Why not? Also, okay, guys, over here is what he mentioned. This is his Instagram, which you see is on screen now. And you can find him on IG at Astral Postcard, no S. And then we have his TikTok, which is Astral Postcards, which is the same. This is his Substack, which is the Astral Post. And then this is his Object, which is just Astral, as well as his newly formed OpenSea. So I think that covers everything. And don't forget to check out this new magazine on the rise. Okay, I got it all covered. I'm going to set back the screens now that I gave that coverage. Let me put everything back to normal. You're probably going to see a black screen, which is exactly what it is right now. And double vert. All right, I'm going to switch this battery. And then I'm going to ask you, let me turn back the camera so you're not talking to an empty chair. And I don't know how long you guys have watched the show for, but 2 people at the same time told me that I have to get rid of the plastic on my chair. So if you'll notice, the plastic is gone. They said only old Italians do it. And I said, well, shit, my mother had plastic on the couches. But I used to have plastic on my gamer chair. It's white. And if you know anything about me, I could get things dirty pretty quickly. So I kept plastic on it. But someone had the ingenious idea to just take the plastic off for the show and then put it back on. And I said, you know what? I could do that. So, yeah, my studio is white. But let me tell you, I could make things filthy very quickly. But everybody jokes and they call my place the Dexter. That I am Dexter in my studio. So, but the plastic's gone, so I don't want to hear no more shit from anyone. All right. Where are we? We're back here, right? And you can see me over here. Okay, good. All right. Astral. It's that time that we say goodnight. But before we do, I always ask everyone to leave us with a couple inspirational words, thoughts, maybe for people out there, I don't know, who might have gone through some pain, have some pain in their life, might resonate with that. I think that you have a lot to offer. It's just younger pain, physical pain, things of that nature. It seems like art is now a way for you to, it also feels like that your path and your journey has led you to create. And I also think creating is a release of that pain in a way. But yeah, I don't know. Why don't you leave us with the inspirational words, and I'll just be quiet.
Yeah, I would just say if you do have a lot of pain and it's overwhelming your life. For me, it was a guide to where I needed to go, and I think that's what it exists for. I also had my understanding of pain is when you process it, it becomes wisdom. That's something else I learned. Like um, you can't learn without going through pain. You can't understand a problem without failing at it first. Those sorts of things. And I think that's what pain exists here. Is it's a teacher, it's a guide. Even if you don't want it to be there, it doesn't let you forget, right? So it kind of forces you. And I think we come in here with a plan when we were born here, and that the pain is part of it. So embrace it if you can, and maybe one day you'll be grateful for it in a weird way. And then if you're drawn to create, I would say, now the tools have never, I feel like people say this every 10 years, but the tools have never made it more easy for you to create. If you want to make a film, you can record people on your iPhone. If you want to make art, you can use Midjourney. Even if you can't hold a pen, you can make really cool stuff. And all it really takes is time. And like, that's what, documentary taught me, is like, it's really just a selection process. It's a process of honing your taste, and anyone can really do that. And especially when you don't really need the same technical abilities that you used to. It's just, if you have a vision you want to see in the world, you can bring it out. And you just have to find a way to get there and hone it. So yeah, and people will, even if you don't think anyone will care, there will probably be people who resonate with it, especially if you go through the time to make it look actually, make it something that appeals to you. There will probably be at least one other person that resonates with it.
All right. I got one last question. Usually we end on this question. We need a track. We need a song. We always close on the guest choosing a song. So do you have a song for us?
I do. So I'm from Florida. The song is called Florida. It's also got an Alan Watts quote wedged in there. So it is the perfect, it's called Florida by, it's STRFKR. Usually people say Starfucker, I guess, but yeah, so hope you enjoy it.
All right.
Hope you know it.
Astral, I want to say thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for spending time with us. I appreciate it. I enjoyed the conversation very much. It just goes to show we got to give a shout out to Noble, because Nolan really,
Noble.
he is a big shout out to him, because I never done anything. Usually I know when I'm the guest. Sometimes very few guests I go in blind, but I had a lot of trust in Nolan's recommendations. So, ended up being a great show. I enjoyed the conversation. I want to thank you for the time that you gave everybody, and all the information that you put out there, and I appreciate it. I thought it was a great show. So thank you very much, bro.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed this. And I do a lot of interviewing for my job, doing documentaries and stuff. So it's cool to be on the other side, and it makes you appreciate there's an art to it, and it's a skill. So, and I think you do it well. So I enjoyed it.
Astral, I'm gonna close up the show. It's gonna take me about 2 minutes. Do me a favor. In those 2 minutes, can you get me the link to that song?
Yeah.
Drop it in the DM. Then we're gonna come back. We're gonna say goodnight to everybody. Yeah. So just give me 2 minutes, and I'll be right back. All right, y'all. Okay. So that's Astral, guys. Guys got a chance to meet him tonight. This was a totally blind show. I didn't know what to expect. Never saw his art. Didn't know anything about him. But Noble popped up and he said, "Hey, I got a show." And I was thinking a little differently for this week, and I wanted to move stuff around, but I didn't have anybody for tonight. I was gonna try to run a pre-recorded show tonight, but then I realized the guy lives in Italy, and so it'd probably be better to do it on Friday. And then I realized Friday's Halloween, and I would really prefer to have somebody who does Halloween stuff on Friday. So I had to move some stuff around. So, it just so happened that, Noble jumped into my box at the time and was like, hey, you should meet Astral. It'll be a good show. And Noble, tip my hat to you because you called that one right. But put my trust in you, and look at how that worked out. So great show. I want to thank Astral for coming on. He was a great show, great conversation. Enjoyed that very much. Okay, rest of the week. Do I talk about shows or do I talk about spaces? Well, tomorrow, Tuesday, we'll see everybody in Sketch's Space, linked by Art with my co-host Sketch and Catalina Uma, where we're in there for about 2 hours from 9 to 11 p.m. New York Eastern Standard Time. That takes place tomorrow on Spaces on X. And we just generally talk about art in there. We got a topic we focus on each week, and it usually ends up being a pretty good space. So I invite everybody to jump into that. Wednesday. Okay, so Wednesday at 6 p.m., we have the FCW Costume Party Halloween show. I am getting the layout to that flyer right now to the guests. I think we will have 5 pretty familiar guests on that show. And from what I understand, I think everybody's going to be in costume. I believe I will be working on my costume tomorrow. So I'm just going to confirm that, and I will drop that graphic tomorrow. But that's 6 p.m. on on Wednesday night. And so that'll run for 2 hours. I know those guys are all about Halloween, a lot of Halloween art, a lot of creepy stuff. So that's FCW, the head of that group over there. Well, he probably won't say he's the head. He'll say it's a group thing, but it's Creepy Steve, who's out there creating all those works with tops. You guys seen him on quite a few shows. Garbage Pail Kids, also V-Friends, Gary V, and just he has a very talented artist and also worked very hard from nothing. So he leads that group. I think we will have Vicky and Acid and a whole bunch of others. I think Uka Swaka's going to be there. So it's going to be interesting to see who shows up. I think Danny will be there if I remember all the names correctly. So you guys saw all spotlight shows on those guys. And not one of them disappointed on their spotlight show. So their FCW Halloween extravaganza will be coming on. Friday, I am looking for a guest, somebody who's really good with Halloween. I have someone in mind. I don't know if that is going to be a yes. I'm working on that, but I am open to suggestions. So if anybody out there knows somebody who treats Halloween like it is every day of the year, I would love to have a Halloween guest on Friday. So drop me a message. And then also, of course, Friday, TGIF, 1 o'clock. I guess it'll be a Halloween spooktacular. You guys know how TGIF works. That's our space. Sometimes goes for 5 hours. Sometimes goes for 10 hours. Sometimes you never know. And you never know who the hosts will be. The hosts are the first 3 people who make it into the room. So might be me, Sketch, Ghost, Chat. You never know. Last week, Sheena. Last week we had somebody make it in there. I thought they were going to end up being the host. They should have been the host. It fails my memory. But TGIF, always a good time. And I invite everybody to come in. There's no format in there. We just go in there and shoot the shit between a bunch of friends. So welcome everybody to TGIF. On that note, guys, I could talk about the future HOP. We have a really special, interesting show coming up that I think it's a new show. It's a different show. And I think we're going to launch it in December. And then we have a lot of interesting guests coming on board, signing up for November and December. A lot of people from NFT NYC, a lot of people from the Hamptons Fine Art Fair, from the Armory Show, a lot of real life artists that don't even know about NFTs. So it's going to be a real mix over the next 2 months. So it should be very interesting. Okay. That's all I got for you guys. On that note, I want to thank everybody for coming. We're going to go do that right now. And I appreciate all you guys for watching the show, supporting. And we're going to make our rounds right now. And also, it's Halloween week, guys. So, go out there and do some spooky stuff. Okay. That's about it. That's all I could think of right now. I don't want to talk about that yet because I don't know, but we're going to do the rounds right now. Let me bring Astral back on. Okay, Astral, you are on screen once again, so just be aware. I'm going to switch this camera back so you're not talking to a pumpkin. And, okay, let's go through the rounds. We'll start with Twitch. Absolutely nobody. But one day, we will have a lot of people on Twitch. I don't know when, I don't know where, but it'll happen. They're coming. Maybe it'll be the aliens. I don't know. But to all the people out there who did stop in, thank you very much for checking in, Twitch. Okay, over on YouTube. Still silent on YouTube too, but one day we will have millions over there watching as well. But to everybody who tuned in on YouTube, thank you very much. Let's see, we'll head over to Facebook. Big Money, thank you for stopping in. Happy Halloweeny, Big Money. Gonna be a good Halloween week. Friday I'll be in costume. Wednesday I'll be in costume. Spike, thanks for stopping in, but I'll say hello to you over on X because you did remember what I told you. The party is on X. Let me jump in over here on IG. Mo Dade Potter. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Mo Dade Potter. Thank you for stopping in. Thank you for joining. Sharing the Night. Thank you for stopping in. Vanchi Ferrari. Mari. Arth. Nahalyeth. Yildiz. And Kerr Travis. I want to thank all you guys for tuning in. Thank you for stopping. Thank you for being part of the show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Let's go to my favorite. X. What's up, X? Hito. Goalie. Let's see. Jenny. Sadie. Oh, I missed Sadie before. Noble. Once again, big shout out to Noble for making the show happen tonight. The Gnostic Alien who got me all fired up with his wolf. The wolf. That's one way to get me fired up. Start posting clips of Wolf of Wall Street. Mabosa. Mr. Artistical. Spike. Appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. We got everybody. Let's see if we missed anybody. Gnostic. Mr. Artistical Noble. Make sure I'm not Nangs. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining the show. And okay, I think we got everybody. All right, guys. That's it. That's the end of the show. I appreciate all you guys for dropping comments, for joining in. And thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we will see you on the next one. Till then. Astro, last chance to say goodbye.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Thanks, everyone, for stopping by.
I'm going to bring up this track right now, and then we're going to end on your art. So let's bring this up. All right, I got it. Florida. I thought when you said Florida for a second, I thought it was going to be Flow Rider, but
no, that'd be a track to end on. We got a couple.
But nah, this is the one that came to. This is the one we got to end on. So on that note, Astral, great show. I'm going to hit this track. We're going to end out on your art. And thank you for being part of the show, bro.
So much for having me.
Oh, come on. I can't play this. I got to be. I got to log in. Hey,
maybe YouTube?
That's a good point. Let's see. Let's see if it's out there. I got it.
There we go.
Okay. Great show. See you guys on the next one.
how much of a wiggle is a wiggle? That is to say, a thing. One wiggle. And always reduce any one wiggle into sub-wiggles. Or see it as a subordinate wiggle and a bigger wiggle. But there's no real fixed rule about it.
And that was a damn good show. I will
Wow.
see everybody on the next one. Shout out to Noble. Good show, Noble. Good choice. Knights of the Art Table. I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.